Hi, I'm Mark. This is Mark's Tech Vlogs on YouTube, and today I'm going to bring you guys a comparison video of the Apple AirPods and the Apple AirPods Pro. So in this video I'm going to compare some of the key features, and I'm going to talk through things like price, battery, design, comfort, spec, features and sound. This isn't a full review for either of them, but I have previously made those and I've linked those below. If you go back and watch my first AirPods review, it's worth noting that this is for the first generation of AirPods, so before some of the other features came in. But for now, let's crack on with the comparison and start by talking about price. And this is where there's the biggest difference between the two, because the AirPods Pro start at £250. The normal AirPods, however, start at £160 if you just want them as they are with a wired charging case, or £200 if you want the wireless charging case. The second important thing to compare is battery life, and both actually have really impressive battery life, with up to 5 hours on one charge. Of course, this changes if you make a lot of phone calls with them, and it's also worth saying that with the AirPods Pro, battery life drops to 4.5 hours if you use the noise cancelling or the transparency mode. And let's be honest, if you've bought the AirPods Pro over the AirPods, realistically you're probably going to. This gives the regular AirPods a slight advantage with battery life. The charging case that comes with both of them give each up to 24 hours battery life, although again less if you're making phone calls. This means when it comes to battery life, whilst there is a slight difference, there's actually not much in practice. And the real thing to say is that if you're wearing them for that long, how comfortable are each of them? So the AirPods Pro have changeable tips. This allows you to find the right size for your ear, and there's even a setting in your Bluetooth settings to help you find the right size by Apple playing some music and calculating what kind of seal is going on. The regular AirPods have this one-size-fits-all approach, and actually I find them pretty comfortable, but this is largely going to depend on the size of your ear. A good way to test this out is if you use the wired earphones that come with an iPhone and you're comfortable using those, then you can be fine with the regular AirPods. This means in terms of comfortability, they're both pretty similar for me, but actually if you've got a different size ear and you prefer in-ears, then maybe the AirPods Pro have a slight advantage because they can be customised. And so before we get on to talking about sound quality, let's talk about some of the other features that they both have. So both the Pros and the regular AirPods have the H1 chip built in, which lets you pair it quickly with your phone and also gives you low latency for watching things like video. They both have the always-on Hey Siri mode, however the AirPods Pro add a few extra things worth talking about. So the Pros add in 2 extra modes called noise cancellation and transparency. Noise cancellation basically actively works to cancel out background noise whether you're listening to music or not. This works really well, especially if you're on a noisy train and you just want to cut out some background noise and concentrate on your reading or something. Transparency mode uses microphones built onto the outside of the AirPods Pro to relay the sound from the outside. This solves that kind of vacuum problem that you get with in-ear headphones and makes it much safer if you're out and about and you need to listen out for traffic. Of course, just by the way they work, the regular AirPods naturally have a sort of transparency mode built in because you can hear because they're not blocking your ear canals. The final extra feature that the AirPods Pro have is that they're sweat and water resistant as well. Both AirPods have some options for controlling your music and controlling your phone as you use them. The regular AirPods let you tap the ears in order to do something. So a double tap will play or pause or answer a call, and then a double tap on the other one will summon something like Siri. You can choose which one does what in the settings. The Pros have replaced this tap mode by letting you squeeze the tip of the earphones. There's a little dent so you know where to squeeze, and you get a bit of haptic feedback as well, which is really good. In my opinion, this is easier to use than a tap mode. This also gives you some extra options. So 1 squeeze plays, pauses or answers a phone call, 2 squeezes goes forward a track, and 3 squeezes goes backward a track. You can also customise for each ear the long squeeze, so you can have one go through your transparency and your noise cancelling modes, and you can have the other one summon Siri. In terms of design, I think they both look pretty good, and I wouldn't really be able to say there's much in it. Once they're in your ears, the design from the outside is largely similar, although the Pros have a slightly shorter stem. It's also worth saying at this point that the Pros actually have a slightly larger charging case. However, both fit in that coin part of your jeans, so this isn't really an issue. So let's talk about the most important thing. Let's talk about the sound quality. So in my opinion, the sound quality on both of these is pretty good. And actually I think they give you a good all-round sound for all types of music. And I listen to everything from Taylor Swift to Slipknot. My main reason for upgrading to Pros from a regular AirPods was just for that noise cancelling mode. And actually I don't think there's a huge amount in it between the two. However, there are some very subtle differences. So with the Pros, I'd say you get a better range of sounds. You certainly get more bass, but you also get a bit more high end, and it's easier to distinguish between different instruments. They also both have pretty similar volume levels, and maybe you get slightly more volume out of the Pros on something like noise cancellation mode, but actually there's not a lot in it. Both also have microphones built in and work really well for phone calls. You're clear and concise when you come across to someone, and it's nice and easy to make a call whether you're using the original AirPods or the Pros. As I've mentioned, however, the Pros do have noise cancellation and transparency mode. In my opinion, this probably gives them the advantage because actually it's just much easier to concentrate on what you're listening to when you're using one of those modes. I also think in terms of maintenance, the Pros are a little bit easier to keep clean because those tips are removable, whereas you can't clean the original AirPods very easily. So all in all, what's the verdict and which should you buy? So firstly, if something like wireless charging is a must, then you might as well spend the extra £50 and get the Pros. Because when you talk about £200 for the regular AirPods with the wireless charging case and $250 for the Pros, then you might as well just spend the extra $50 for the extra features. If wireless charging isn't something you're fussed about, then actually it's a slightly trickier decision. Both are great sounding earphones with really good battery life, and so the real question to ask is whether you want noise cancellation and water resistance. If you're on a pretty tight budget, then actually I don't think you'll regret spending £160 on the AirPods because they sound great and they're really comfortable. My old pair also had a lot of life left in them when I upgraded to the Pros, and they lasted me really well. I also didn't find that they moved around much during exercise, although other reviewers found different things, and that's all to do with the size of your ears. However, if you're travelling a lot, then actually stretching to £250 with the Pros with their noise cancelling and even more rigid fit is probably something that's worth spending the money on. And as someone who uses trains a lot, they've made journeys much more enjoyable because I can just shut out a lot of that background noise, even without having to listen to some music. This makes it much easier to concentrate on doing work whilst on the go, or even reading a book or something. I hope you guys have found this video helpful. If you've got any questions, do stick them below and I will try and answer those. Please consider liking this video, subscribing to my channel, and I'll see you guys again soon.